Before Googling something was even a phrase, there was Yahoo. For millions of people, it wasn't just another website. It was the front door, the very first page they saw on the entire internet. It was an absolute titan, a pioneer, a name that basically defined an era. But its story is also one of the most dramatic, jaw-dropping cautionary tales in the history of tech.
Okay, get this. In 2008, Microsoft shows up with an offer to buy Yahoo for nearly $45 billion, and Yahoo said no. Less than a decade later, it was sold off for under $5 billion. So the central question we're tackling today is pretty simple. How does a giant fall that far, that fast?
To really understand the fall, you've got to go all the way back to the beginning. The internet in the mid-1990s, it was a chaotic, disorganized mess. It was the Wild West of information, and two Stanford grad students, Jerry Yang and David Philo, decided it desperately needed a map.
And their success was just explosive. What started as a simple web directory in '94 went public just 2 years later. Then they launched Yahoo Mail, a totally free service that basically took over the market. And by the year 2000, they hit an astronomical peak valuation of $125 billion. They were, without a single doubt, on top of the entire world. And this quote just nails its cultural importance. See, it wasn't just a search engine or an email provider. It was the place you started your day online. It was your home base. Your news, your stocks, your messages, it was all right there, woven into the fabric of that iconic purple homepage. But here's the thing. Right at the very peak of its power, the seeds of Yahoo's downfall were already being planted. The story starts to shift here from one of incredible growth to a series of, almost unbelievable strategic blunders. Which brings us to this staggering question. And it really sounds like an exaggeration, but in Yahoo's case, it's the literal truth. They had two separate chances to buy the future, and they let both of them slip right through their fingers.
$1 million. Let that sink in. In 1998, two other Stanford PhD students, a couple of guys named Larry Page and Sergey Brin, felt like their little search engine project was actually getting in the way of their studies. So they offered to sell it to Yahoo.
For just $1 million, Yahoo could have owned the core technology that would become Google. But Yahoo saw itself as a media portal, a content company, not a search company. They just didn't see the potential, and they turned it down. It was $1 million no that would eventually cost them everything.
Okay, now fast forward just 4 years to 2002. By this point, Yahoo realized it had made a massive, massive mistake. Google was on fire, and so they came back to the table with a brand new, much bigger number. Yahoo offered $3 billion this time, but the power dynamic had totally flipped. Google was now confident, they knew what they had, and they rejected the offer. That window had slammed shut. The deal of the century was gone for good. And incredibly, this became a pattern. 4 years later, they had a deal all but signed to buy a super fast-growing social network called Facebook for $1 billion. But at the last minute, Yahoo lowered its offer. A deeply insulted Mark Zuckerberg walked away. Another future giant just slipped away. This chart just perfectly shows the final fatal miscalculation. In 2008, Microsoft made that huge offer, $44.6 billion. But Yahoo's board, in an act of what you can only call pure hubris, insisted they were worth more and rejected the deal. The result? A catastrophic freefall to that final sale price of just $4.8 billion.
Hey, if you're finding this story as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that subscribe button for Money Lessons by History for more stories just like this one. But don't go anywhere, because the next part reveals the key lessons that every single modern entrepreneur needs to hear.
So while Yahoo was fumbling all these huge deals on the outside, the situation inside the company was just as chaotic. It had completely lost its way. It was like a ship adrift at sea with no map and no steady hand at the helm. This list really illustrates the core problem, right? A crippling identity crisis. What was Yahoo? A search company? A media company? An email service? By trying to be everything to everyone, they spread themselves way too thin and ended up becoming the master of absolutely nothing. And this just shows the absolute chaos at the top. Yahoo became infamous for its revolving door of CEOs. In its final years alone, it burned through 7 different leaders. Each new CEO came in with a new strategy, a new vision, and would often just undo the work of the person before them. It created total, paralyzing chaos. So, as if all that internal turmoil wasn't bad enough,
This staggering number represents the final, devastating blow to what was left of the company's reputation.
In 2013, Yahoo suffered the largest data breach in history. It compromised all 3 billion of its user accounts, every single one. And this, along with another huge breach affecting 500 million users, completely shattered public trust. For a company built entirely on its user base, it was a fatal wound. With its vision totally lost, its biggest opportunities squandered, and its users' trust completely broken, the end of Yahoo as an independent company was, at this point, pretty much inevitable.
And here it is. This is how it all ends up. From a peak of $125 billion to rejecting a $44.6 billion lifeline, all the way down to a final sale price of just $4.8 billion. The numbers tell the entire, tragic story of one of the most dramatic value destructions in corporate history.
But, Yahoo's story is way more than just a corporate tragedy. It's a powerful and timeless business case study. So let's distill the really crucial lessons that we can all learn from this fallen giant.
So what are the real lessons here? Well, first, whatever made you successful yesterday won't protect you tomorrow. Yahoo perfected the web portal, but they got so busy defending that castle that they missed the huge revolutions in search and social media happening right outside their walls. Second, strategic vision isn't about doing everything, it's about doing the right thing. By trying to be a media, tech, and search company all at once, they were never truly great at any of it. And finally, arrogance is the enemy of adaptation. At every single critical fork in the road, Yahoo believed its own hype, thinking its dominance was permanent, and they underestimated every new threat until it was far, far too late.
This all leaves us with one final, fascinating question to think about. Looking back at all these critical moments, all these different forks in the road, what do you think Yahoo could have done differently? Where was the big mistake?
Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hit that like button and, of course, subscribe to Money Lessons by History for more real stories that teach real money lessons.